In the 70s, The Exorcist was one of a kind. Some may say first of its kind. But in 2023, that's not the case. What's going on, people? Alex Thorn here, and I'm just a rock and roller who in his downtime likes to watch movies while wearing a bandana. And if you saw my short, then you know that this time I actually wore a bandana to the theater, unlike other times. But check this out. This is my first time watching The Exorcist. I've never seen any of the other movies in this series. I know the lore and the history of its, how big it was. But as time went on, The Conjuring and Insidious and so many other movies came out that really watered down the genre. So now in 2023, when I went to the theater with my son to watch Exorcist, The Believer, it really wasn't a big deal to me. I wasn't scared on the inside. All the Pentecostal stuff I grew up with didn't really bother me. Why? Because this movie just feels like a lot of other movies at this point. As I think back to my experience in the theater, the one thing that keeps running through my mind is it depends heavily on you knowing the previous lore of this series, especially the first one. So they're assuming, like many other films that have continued the legacy, they're trying to create a sequel to the original 1970s Exorcist. The mother of Regan, the character played by Linda Blair, is heavily featured in this movie, and that lore is spoken about. It basically is like you're supposed to know this. You're supposed to feel like she's Jamie Lee Curtis or Linda Hamilton when she shows up. And to me, I'm just like, oh, I don't know who she is, but apparently she's important. That's the one thing, the pacing of the movie, the structure of the movie, because I looked at this before I went in and saw it was an hour and 52 minutes. I was like, whoa, this is pretty long. And at first it starts off slow, but then like by the middle of the movie, it just starts speeding up and referring to things that you did not see in the movie. So if you're like me and this is the first time you're going to see this type of movie in this series, you really don't understand what's going on and why it's moving so fast. It puts importance on priests that are not featured in the movie, that suddenly you're supposed to feel like when they turn around, it's like Will Smith or something, like somebody important to the movie industry or somebody iconic to a series, and you're like, I don't know who this is. The main characters, Tanner and Angela, are played by Leslie Odom Jr. and Lydia Jewett, and they do a really good job. It's heavily focused on them. Angela is friends with another little girl named Catherine, who has no last name in the movie, played by Olivia O'Neill. And here's the thing. You get that they're friends. You understand from the first setup of the movie that Angela's mother is no longer with us. But there's not enough there to set up what happens when these two little girls go off into the woods and start to mess with things you shouldn't mess with. But it's a very quick scene. Like, I kid you not, it's so fast, and then suddenly they're gone. I kind of wish, because we go through so much time of the father denying what's happening because he's not a believer, and people who do believe and people who once believed, who are finding their way back because of this situation to believing, the father who doesn't believe because of tragedies that have gone on with him and what he's facing. This is focused on more than the journey of the two little girls when they went missing. I wish we would have saw a little bit more of that rather than figuring out how everybody is starting to become a believer. The third act of this movie, things happen fast. Crazy shit happens. It's just not often in this movie. With me knowing only the typical things that have been shown and parodied from the original Exorcist, I was wondering if we were going to see that in this entry, the 2023 edition, like vomiting, projectile vomit, like the head spinning around, like the girl rising from the bed, like the eyes going back in the head, and also the signature music. Those were the kind of things that I've seen imagery of from the original that I was wondering, will it be incorporated in this one? Because that's kind of like the thing you're looking for if you've never seen Exorcist movies, but you've only seen highlights of it. And I can tell you that some of that stuff does happen. And because in the original, they were limited to what they had at the time, the CGI in this is done really, really well. And I can tell you the updated versions of everything I just spoke to you about, if it's in the movie, if you see it in the movie, is done really well. If I was to critique any performances in this movie, I think it would probably only be one, and it would be of the father, Tanner. He's the only one that to me feels disconnected. I'm not saying he should have been more emotional, but there wasn't a connection to me that jumped across the screen. It is opening weekend for The Exorcist the Believer, and it's my first time watching The Exorcist. Here is my bandana rating for The Exorcist the Believer. I'm going to give this movie 3 bandanas out of 5. And I'm going to give it 3 bandanas out of 5 because it is a serviceable movie. You could put it on in the background, let it play. It's another horror movie. You could sit down and watch it and not just say I'm bored to tears. Again, it does have pacing and editing issues. By the third act, you're all going to shut up and you're all just going to start, screaming and laughing and popping and probably having genuine moments of being like, oh my God. Being caught by the imagery in the movie. So because of that, and because the third act is very visually striking, I'm going to give this movie 3 bandanas out of 5. Guys, let me know. Are you going to watch Exorcist the Believer? Do you feel connected to this movie because you saw some of the other entries? Is this a series for this channel that I should go back and watch? Guys, let me know down below. Are you going to watch it? If you have watched it, let me know. Just no spoilers. And if you have an idea for a series, let me know that too. My latest single, Save Our Love, is out on all major streaming platforms right now. For the first time ever, my song crossed the borders onto TikTok. Thank you so much to the girl who used my song in her TikTok. I appreciate it. Guys, I've put my all into my music, and I'm going to continue to do so into 2024. Do me a favor. If you love this channel, go check out my music. It's Save Our Love. The link is down below. You know what I gotta do. I gotta rock out, continue making my music, so then I can feel justified when I go and watch a movie to review. I'm Alex Thorn.